Hello, and you are listening to 2012 and Beyond with Rashmi, Khilnani, and Jeremy McDonald. Today we'll be discussing the subject of 2013 and transitioning from a fear frequency within ourselves to a love frequency. Now that we're beyond the December 21st, 2012 mark and going into 2013, we're at a very good state. Energy has been very high, if you can feel it. Things have been shifting. Definitely, emotions have been high. There's been a lot going on within the world here in the United States as well, and around the globe. Rashmi will be calling in from London, England, where she's been living in her new home in London, and we'll be discussing what we've been feeling since the last time we talked. Interesting things happening. This is 2013. Spirit's been telling me is the year of completion, going into the Golden Age and the Aquarian Age. We're now finalizing everything within ourselves and alchemizing ourselves from the fear frequency we've been living in for a long time, the limitation frequency we've been living in for a long time, and we'll be falling into that flow frequency, love frequency. So I'm excited about having Rashmi on the phone here in just shortly. 2012 was the year of mastery, and boy, did we ever do that. I know Rashmi traveled for 5 years. I traveled a good majority of the year in 2012. And now we're looking to be a little bit stable right now, at least here for a little bit. So we'll be having Rashmi on here very shortly, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Okay, so we have Rashmi on the line from London. How are you doing, Rashmi?
Hi, Jeremy. How are you? Very well, thank you. Happy 2013. I mean, it's just day 5. It already feels like we've been through a lot this year.
Oh, it has seemed like quite a long time, and the energy has been incredible this week. I can feel it within myself. I know you can feel it, and I feel things changing as we speak.
Absolutely. So it really feels like the energy has been full on from day 1. Usually January can be a little bit, slow to start, and recovering from Christmas and all of that. And I think, the expectation has been quite high, as to what the energy is going to be like after 21/12 and so on. And so it's a nice combination, isn't it, of still being in the 3D frequencies, but also in a much higher energy at the same time.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I know we're talking about this time about fears and alchemizing that in love and becoming co-creation. And how do you think we're going to approach that? I mean, I know that we can look at our blocks and look at that, but I've got a few things I want to discuss, but I just want to see what your opinion was, or what you're feeling right now.
Yeah, so this is our first show, guys, on across the Atlantic with Jeremy in Florida and myself, Rashmi, in London. And Jeremy has written Peace Within, and I've written Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, and The Buddha Speaks, To the Buddha Nature Within. And we're calling this show 2013 and Beyond, and from love to fear, from fear to love. And we're in this glyph right now, in the Mayan glyph of co-creation at this time. There's a lot of information through Google on that. And this is a time where the pulsations of creation are within this glyph of conscious co-creation. So win-win scenarios are going to do very well. Cooperation is the name of the game, and the way the energy is flowing, and the competitive energies, win, lose, fight, flight, are slowly going to start receding. So did you feel any of this at the moment, Jeremy?
Absolutely. And I've been feeling that change within myself. I was already very peaceful and very imbalanced a lot of times, but there would be that pull. I don't know if you've ever felt that pull towards something that would get you out of balance, and now it's and you'd fall into that old pattern, or at least I was, and now I'm feeling that actually melting away. As a matter of fact, the other day I felt like a burning inside. It was like burning all those old feelings, all those old patterns that I still hadn't gotten to, and now I don't have to, because they're all they've kind of melted away. It's like the new energy is really alchemizing me into the new consciousness, which I'm sure
right.
I'm not sure what everybody else is feeling.
You're feeling less pressure of 9 to 5 and achievement and success and all of that stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Because I just know it's going to happen. I'm already successful, and I'm already happy, and I know that's something that a lot of people are concerned with out there. Well, what is success?
Yeah.
So.
Right. So, how would you deal with fear, Jeremy? Because I think the big question for all of us is that, fear still comes up, doesn't it? I mean, in spite of all the work we've done and all the initiations we've had and all the healing we do on ourselves and others and meditation and quiet time with nature and so on. So how do you feel that is, when fear comes up, how would you deal with that?
Well, it's interesting. I really, really like. This is a big subject I have a lot, and I just want to start off with a real quick story. And I've already probably talked to you about this one, Rashmi, but I just went on this tour, and I bought a big van, which Rashmi's been in, and we I had a fear of driving in mountains. And I was okay with driving in the mountains of Tennessee or North Carolina or Virginia and that kind of stuff. But when it came to driving that van in Montana, where the mountains went straight up and straight down, my fear started to come up, and all these voices in my head started screaming and and getting upset. And I literally heard them within me, and I had to sit there and practice what I teach everybody else. And I could have two choices here. I could have gotten scared and turned back around and headed back to Florida on the other side of the country, or I could have faced my fear and just did it. And so, and Justin was with me. Justin doesn't drive, so those are the only two choices. Or pay somebody to drive me through the mountains, which wasn't really an option. And so I finally just said, you know what, let's just do it. And I started talking to myself, because I was doing about 40 miles an hour through the mountains in the beginning. And the Montana residents weren't exactly happy about that. So I actually sat there and I talked myself through it. I said, it's okay. We drive a little bit faster. Let's just push it just a couple more miles until I got us up to the speed limit. And you can use this analogy in just about anything that you're afraid of. I mean, initially when I first started doing public speaking, I was so scared when I had to do a speech when I was 17 that I peed my pants. I mean, and those are things that the ego judges and it thinks that all these things are going to happen, like speaking in front of people. What are they going to think? Are they going to like me? Or are they going to think I'm good enough? Or are they going to think my speech is perfect? Am I going to say the wrong things? All these things, all these voices and all these emotions are inside of you, and they're scaring you more than the actual people. And that's what I want you to pay attention to, is those voices or those feelings inside of you that starts to go and say, hey, I don't have to be scared anymore. And you face each one of those, because half the time what we do is we try to push those feelings aside and not pay attention to them. But our ego needs attention too. So if you give it love, it's going to give you love back. And so that's actually how I approach my fears, is with love. So.
Yeah, just sort of embracing it into the love of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean,
I think that's really good reminder to everybody, because when fear comes up, one gets so frozen, and then all the ways of dealing with it, it becomes so real. And fear is not a real thing, is it? It's what is it? There's a definition of fear, isn't there?
False evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not really real, but the ego makes it very real, and it feels very real, and the solar plexus is going. So absolutely, Jeremy, this embracement and going through it and breathing through it,
Yeah.
I think in the times to come, particularly in 2013, it's a fabulous time for co-creation, for things that we're passionate about, for connecting to our heart energy, and connecting that heart energy to the center of the planet and to the center of the galactic center of source, the sun, and within us, connecting to our heart energy. And if we don't know how, a lot of people say, how do I connect to my heart energy? Well, the answer is allowance, making a space, slowing down, breathing, connecting to that space within ourselves that is silent and still, and giving ourselves a permission each day to have spaces for silence and stillness, and then the heart will slowly begin to reveal its energy and that feeling. And from that space, when we create, then there's no polarity. It's just pure positive energy and joy. So, can we just have another way of dealing with fear now, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Do you want to give one, or you want me to say?
Well, the way I would approach it is, it's in my books, the Buddha Speaks, Buddha Nature Within, which is neti-neti, which is, a disidentification from all the things I am. But these are the absolute teachings, and ultimately everybody will come to these teachings. But meanwhile, we're all at different stages. There's nobody who's better than or lower than anybody else, We're all one with every archangel and guru and whatever. But this absolute is in the neti-neti, which is, I am neither this nor that. So even disidentifying from one's fear and saying, who is fearing? Going into self-examination of who is feeling this fear. And whenever we ask the question, who am I? Who is thinking? The mind zaps. And fear exists within the mind. There's no fear in the heart energy. There's no fear in the soul energy. There's no fear in the oneness energy of love. It's within, the ego duality, false personality self. So when we ask that question, who am I or who is fearing, the mind begins to zap automatically. And it's not an intellectual question we ask. We go into the feeling of that. So I think a lot of people are still very afraid to feel. Would you agree with that, Jeremy?
Absolutely. In some cases, I don't think they know how to feel. So now the energy is just so strong, particularly in 2013 now, and it's going to just keep stepping up with every second, every minute. Time is speeding up. This process that we've been going through, last year, which wasn't the end of the world. It's just the end of duality of time and space as we know it, into a higher frequency of energy. And this happens in stages and happens at each person's pace, because not everybody is going to assimilate all of that in one go. And Earth herself is assimilating it now. And so we're going to see this happening, individually and collectively more and more. So it's a very exciting time for co-creation, for love, for creating heaven on earth within ourselves, that space of peace. If we just make a little bit of time, that can be highly amplified. Yeah. But just coming back to feeling now, because yes. So, how do you feel people around you, Jeremy, that are, opening up to these energies, are, feeling their feelings in little baby steps? Well, I think right now one thing is that they're discovering actual feelings other than the reactive feelings, and so what I'm seeing is that that's actually scaring some people, but others they're starting to get more dreams, they're starting to get more visuals. I have a friend that had a dream for a couple 2 or 3 nights in December where he was flying, and I was like, wow, that's totally a freedom feeling right there. And liberation feeling, and then he was also. But then the very next night, shadows came up in his dreams and scared him. And then I've had people, believe it or not, having more erotic type of dreams, what means that's intimacy feelings to me, coming up, and so these are things that people are really shut down and closed off. And I mean, especially in the last 10 years, it seems like it's been really closed off. Here in the United States, I don't know what it is like around the rest of the world, but here in the United States, wherever I go, now people are really starting to, men are calling up and saying, I've been crying a lot, and I feel like a wimp, and I'm like, no, you're not a wimp. You're releasing right now more than you ever have, and that's a good thing. And it's time to experience all these emotions that you've been holding back for so long. And that's quite incredible to see. I mean, just in myself, I know that I've learned to just allow that, and I know you have too. And what the people that are out there listening, just take some time each day to process where you're at and where are your emotions at. What are you feeling? If you are crying, you allow yourself to do that, but ask, what is this about? Gain an understanding instead of just being in that reaction. If you're upset, ask why. If you're feeling tremendous amounts of joy, you just feel that joy and be in the now of the moment. Be in the now of the moment for all of them. To me, this body is about an experiencing body, and experience it for everything that it has. And so that's quite miraculous.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful, and but when you say, why am I feeling something, don't get into your head and start analyzing that.
Absolutely.
Because emotion is energy in motion. That's all it is. Yep. And we judge our emotions and feelings as good and bad. Actually, they're just neutral. They're just the energy moving. And if we let it move, then we won't have disease, which is disease.
Absolutely.
So don't judge it, but yes, it's good to know, is this my energy? Is this somebody else's energy? Is this collective energy? Is this morphogenic fear I'm feeling? And we don't always need to know, but sometimes it's useful. So again, if we reconnect to our heart and ground ourselves, connect to the center of Earth, feel ourselves in our bodies first and foremost, because most of us are sort of in our heads, aren't we? And it's all just up there, and you're very spaced out, and one isn't even in one's body.
Yeah. There's actually, I want to just ask a real quick question of you, because I got you on the line, and this came to me actually this morning when I was meditating and preparing for the show today. And I picked up your book, actually. And it's the chapter on spiritual... The Buddha Speaks.
The Buddha Speaks. And
the question here is, Dear Lord Buddha, the perennial question everybody asks is, what is the meaning of life? Why are we here? And I think it kind of goes along with, love, come from fear into love. And the chapter is titled Spiritual Alchemy. And so I was just thinking about that, and the Buddha actually goes into the mind is always seeking purpose in a reason in analysis. The mind is interested in elevation and judgment, but that is where you begin. So, and then it goes into the flowering and growing. What do you think? And I didn't get the chance to go on further. It's just it hit me, and I thought it was a good topic to bring up before we were going to be talking about. Where do you think the purpose is in life? I mean, to me, it's an experience, and that grows from within that. It keeps on blossoming.
Well, as the Buddha says in the Buddha Speaks, life doesn't have a particular purpose. The purpose is what we give it. Life is a neutral. The soul comes down, and there's the movie projector, and there's a screen, and there are actors, and there's a stage, and we can create. And we are the director, the actor, the producer, the screen, the stage, and the projector. And in each lifetime, we can choose whatever we want to create. And that's a very interesting question you've just asked, because 2013 and beyond is all about conscious co-creation. And so what do we choose to co-create consciously as the purpose of this life? And we will have other ones possibly, if we would like to. And we are multidimensional at the same time. So many of us are going to have more and more recall of our lives in other time-space continuums, planets, galaxies, etc., and in the unmanifest. More and more this is going to happen. More and more people are going to wake up to their healing energies. More and more people are going to wake up to their psychic, spiritual, and intuitive energies, and many, many other gifts, not just the gurus, not just the sages anymore. And so it is whatever you would like it to be. But if we make it conscious, then it's completely different, isn't it, to being reactive. So just based on our conditioning, based on our genetics, based on what my mother did, my grandfather did, my great-grandfather did, my country did, all those things need to start dissolving now. Yeah. We need to consciously let go of our conditioning, consciously let go of our genetic, whatever it is that no longer serves us. We can keep the good parts. And then from that space, we have a clearer stage and screen,
Yeah.
Because otherwise what we have is a whole load of, my father died at the age of 60 or whatever it was, and therefore I've got to die at the age of 60. My great-grandmother had a heart attack when she died, so So we don't need to do that anymore. We can now, the energy is so amazing. It's pure photonic light and love energy. If we just have the courage to let go of what feels safe, even if the safe thing led us to suffering, humans cling to safety, don't they?
Absolutely, because they don't want their safety needs to be shook up at all. And
even though they're suffering and they're going to die and they're going to get disease, they would prefer that to changing.
Yeah.
So this change is really important, and I think you put a little thing on Facebook today, which is absolutely add on, Jeremy, that to change, we have to go through discomfort.
Yep. Yep.
And we have to feel our feelings,
Well, that's been coming to me tremendously a lot lately in order to, because I've been reading a lot of books on alchemy, and trust me, you and I both know I haven't been a big reader. A lot of my stuff has come from meditation and
yes.
Spirit talking to me. For some reason, Spirit is guiding me in having me say, pick up this book, books that people have given me. And one of them is to understand that through a process, we have to go, every time we change, we have to go through a purification process, an integration process, and then we actualize it. And so it reminds me of the old ancient Greeks and their gods and the Hades, Zeus, and Poseidon, the three big ones. And in order to when you really think about it, you have to walk through hell, Hades, and once you let go of that, you realize that everything is tranquil and peaceful. Poseidon, the ocean, and then the water, the fluids, the body, and then you become wholeness in all three, body, mind, and spirit become into oneness, and that's the Zeus, the Father consciousness, all three of them working together. And that becomes really the feminine, the male, and the body within oneself. And so I'm like, that's very interesting when you think about it. And so while people are out there, you may be going through a hard time. It's like I had a gentleman ask me at a church I spoke at a few weeks ago. He said, well, what do you think was going to happen in 2012? And it was literally the Sunday before December 21st. And I said, it's going to be an awakening of consciousness. Everything is going to change. It's already been happening. And we're already in, really, the Aquarian age. And he said, well, I don't think so. I mean, the whole economy is going to collapse, and the president is bringing a lot of crazy things up. And I said, when all great changes happen, chaos happens. That's called growing pains. And so, and it's necessary to go through in order for us to evolve. So.
Yes, absolutely. So, what's really required now is this energy of courage. And that's what the heart energy is. You can't be in the heart energy without the energy of courage. The mind is, very automatic. It's got its, the mind really is a survival tool. It decides what's similar and dissimilar. And the new energy on the planet has got nothing to do with the mind. It's actually got to do with the dissolving of the mind, or to using the mind as we use computers, but just to realize that can't be the boss anymore, because it leads to dualistic, separate, limited, very sort of robotic ways of being, and it doesn't lead to any kind of real creativity or joy or celebration or sharing, And as we come into this heart energy now, we are going to reconnect to each other in community, which is in an inner thing. So first we have to reconnect to ourselves. And this reconnection to ourselves is about feeling our feelings. And I know for a lot of people, there are people in the Ukraine and various countries that will say, well, that's easy for you to say, but how do I feel my heart energy? I've grown up in an autocratic government. Things are going crazy. I mean, in America, so many things are going crazy, aren't they? Right. It's happening all over the world. So this is where the energy of courage comes in, and the energy of trust. Really take little baby steps and see that how when you allow your heart to and your love energy and your intuitive energy to guide you moment to moment, that builds trust. And the more you build trust in that intuition, the more magic happens in your life, The more you create heaven on earth, the more you have synergy and synchronicity. Don't you find that, Jeremy, in your life?
Absolutely. The deeper and deeper the more courage I have to get into myself and understand myself and face face my fears instead of brushing them aside, the more peaceful and balanced I get. I mean, it gets better and better and better, and it gets richer. And so it's like the universe is going to take you on. It's going to take you on a ride of your life, and it's going to be through your soul and within yourself, and it's incredible.
It's your I am presence.
Yes.
It's your own energy. You are a conscious co-creator. So the energy of courage, the energy of responsibility, we'd rather suffer than change, which is, it's time to let that go. And we are not ready to take responsibility so that somebody else, the government is responsible, this is responsible, the evil is responsible. Everything exists within us. The universe is within us. Quantum physicists have proven this. A lot of the spiritual leaders in America, the teachers, they've written books about this. These are scientific facts that the yogis in India meditated on and realized for thousands of years on this planet. And time is simultaneous. So it's really time to take responsibility for one's life. And instead of trying to change everything on the outside, as Gandhiji said, make the change within ourselves, each and every one of us. I'm really spending my time right now focusing on my inner alchemy, on creating space and time for my own healing, for my own energy, for my own enlightenment, call it as you will, reconnection, and making even stronger what I've been practicing for years and lifetimes. And as we do that, we hold frequency. And that's the greatest gift as healers and light workers that are listening to this show that we can do, is hold frequency. It's not about going and, feeding every single person on the planet, clothing them. And, I've been really upset about this rape case in India. And I thought, well, I'm jumping on a plane and I'm fighting for, the rights of women in India. We all have different causes we want to fight for. But at the end, I realized that right now, spirit, my soul, my I am presence would like me to spend a few months in London, really holding this frequency. London is like a huge center on the planet, the global village, the epicenter of the banking system on this planet, to hold a frequency of love, of being, of allowing, of silence, and of healing. And that's a big thing, isn't it, Jeremy?
Absolutely.
I don't need to jump on the plane, essentially, to do that.
No, and that's the lesson I learned this year. I didn't, I had a great time, but I could have done everything I did traveling at the couch, on my couch in my house, getting still. But everything was perfect.
No, both are valid. Both are valid.
Both are valid. I mean, that's what I want people to say is when I say things like that, it doesn't. I learned they could have done it both ways. So
yeah,
and
the universe is within us, and Jeremy was guided to go on this journey, and he knows he was guided because every step of that journey, no matter what challenge it threw at him, Jeremy, you were able to really feel that energy of I'm walking my path. I'm doing in this moment that, and being in this moment that which my soul is calling for me to be.
Yeah, and that's something that I was really, because we're talking about co-creation. This is an interesting story that I went through my storage unit last weekend, and I literally hear a voice, Jared, look in this box, and I go, okay. And so I look in the box, and in there is my mother's Reiki books from the classes she took with that, and then her multidimensional mind course. And so I pull out this book and things that I already know that you and I discussed, but for some reason, when I read it, it really hit me hard. This is what I just read it yesterday, and so that's why it's fresh in my mind. And so I want to put this out there to everybody: is that when you're co-creating, keep in mind you want to co-create with spirit. In other words, with the wholeness. So there is a shamanic level 2 that they're talking about in there, and when you get down into that level, which is basically an alpha and theta brainwave, and you get down into that brainwave, and you start then visualizing and seeing your creation that you want to see, and then you see it as plain as day, and you feel it, and then what happens is that then when I'm reading this and I hear Spirit say to me, and then Jer, you allow your body to act out the part that you created. I'm like, you allow your body? I think, wow, that's the movie projector that a bunch of teachers talk about, You set the intention inside, you feel it, you visualize it, you act on the opportunities, and your body is the mechanism to act on the opportunities of your creation. And the people that come into your life are the actors within that movie that you became the director of in your creation with spirit. And so when you mention that we are the universe is within us, that's literally what you're doing, is you're recognizing at that theta level that you are, that the universe is within us, that we are, I am that. And so it really changes your focus of how you create, because we think we're just this body. We've compacted ourselves into this flesh, and that's very much a part of the whole, and it is the whole.
Yeah, we're so much more than just the body. We're so much more than just the mind. And Jeremy and I decided, Jeremy does his own show, Soul Talk Radio, and we just, from guidance and spontaneity, agreed to do a new show, which is this show, 2013 and beyond, from fear to love. And it just happened, didn't it? And this is a great example of co-creation, where two people are coming together for service and healing and creating space to deal with some of the issues, in Europe, in America, for listeners listening or watching on YouTube across the globe on, how do we bridge, from 3D reality to the 5D? How do we create this heaven on earth energy? How do we find the courage to feel our feelings and to come out of love? And what's really, really important with this co-creation, besides what Jeremy just said, which is so beautiful, is that we need to understand the two principles which are covered very beautifully in Reiki, which is universal life force energy, is, always creating for the highest good of all concerned and within the free will of all concerned. So all this manipulation of energy and against the will of others, and for some to win and some to lose, those sort of things are definitely collapsing and will continue to. So why create from those spaces anymore?
Absolutely. And one of the techniques you guys can do out there is you can say, if this isn't my divine plan, then make it easy. And why you say divine plan is because when you're co-creating, you don't want to co-create anything that is not in your divineness or everybody else's divineness. And then when you do that, it flows, and you don't have to affect anybody's free will, and you don't want it that way either. But trust me, I've created from that space before, and it doesn't feel good in the end. So, and I don't know if Rashmi's been there before too, but when you co-create from the ego, it's not co-creation. It ends up being...
Well, in the past, before I understood that lesson, there was a time when after I'd studied and become Reiki master of this, that, and the other, that, I thought I'm going to sort my boyfriend out, and that, he's suffering so much, so he must come and meet XYZ gurus, etc. And it didn't work because, even if he physically was coming along with me, his will wasn't there, and it took me a while to understand it.
Absolutely.
And then after we split, I realized that I must always be very sensitive to, because, now when people say, can I have healing? I don't just listen to their words. Some people say, can I have healing? And I say, no, because their heart is not in it, And with others, they may say, I don't want healing, but my inner voice is saying, give them some, or ask, push them a little bit further into themselves, because their inner voice is crying for it, but their personality still. So, there are so many different layers and levels, and we don't have to get complicated about it. As we can just use whatever affirmation we like, such as Jeremy's within divine will, or mine, which is, within the highest good and within free will of all concerned. Then we are going to create wonderful scenarios. And this sharing, this community living, share and save the world, that's going to play a huge role now. Because we have to come out of these systems, haven't we, as they collapse. Absolutely. And we can either go into total fear, or we can ride the waves of fear and act out of love and courage, and instead of condemning what's going wrong, say, okay, at a grassroots level, what can I do to grow some food or to create community wherever I am? Whether I'm in a desert or I'm in the middle of London as I am, it's not the easiest thing. I'm not living in a New Age community or something here, but I can still create community by connecting first to myself, connecting to the trees in the park, connecting to the elements within my body, the sacred elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, the sun, the breath, and then from that, being able to connect to the shopkeeper and not just treating them like, they don't exist. Right?
Absolutely. And you know what? When you treat people like that, that's how and you start really feeling it, that's how you're treating yourself within yourself. It changes your outlook on things. And so I just wanted to bring that up as an addition onto that. And Rashmi, when you really think about it, you and I are creating community right now because, we're connecting across the Atlantic Ocean. I mean,
yes, and this show we'll do an ongoing show, won't we, once a month?
Absolutely.
So hopefully we'll have one on the 5th of February and so on. And so there will be a forum here, and we have a page on Facebook as well. And if you guys want to ask questions, that's not a problem. I teach 20 modalities of energy medicine, and I've been teaching Reiki masters and various teachers and, people that have training centers across the globe, and doing a lot of spiritual work and meeting many of the gurus and teachers and making a film called I God and the next book called Shiva Speaks. Mahavatar Babaji teaches us here now. He's my great teacher, and I work with the Ascended Masters. He's coming out in 2013, and Jeremy is writing his next book now and doing a lot of research. He's a major healer and has been doing a lot of work in churches and across America. So we are here for you. And we must all help each other. And I think very often in these interactive radio shows, I hope the time will come, we learn from you as well, don't we, Jeremy?
Absolutely. Yeah, every time I teach or speak or work with somebody, I learn something new, or every time I interview somebody, I learn something new because the teacher is also the student. So, and that's...
So at the moment in 2013, just walking around the streets of Florida, and you're in Tampa?
Yes.
What do you feel in the last 5 days of the new year is like humanity in, judging from just looking at in Florida, the big issue right now for people, it's money, isn't it?
It's big. The big fear of it.
I don't know what it is for you.
Yeah, huh? The new tax thing came out at the beginning of the year, so everybody's scared about that right now. They're upset that that's cutting their income, and I'm like, guys, if you would just take a second and realize that however much it came out of your check, that your job, your government was not your provider in the first place. The universe was. Your internal universe, your divine self within you that attracts exactly to you what you need. And so it's and if you're looking at that, and I still see people searching. It's like I've been watching my YouTube channel blow up over the past 6 months, and I get comments on things, and the ones that are geared towards not necessarily you and I talked a lot about love and spirit and stuff like that, and those get a lot of listens. Or the stuff I do on near-death experiences I've been watching, they get a lot of listens. The ones that, because there's more than one person in my group, the ones that are posted about, banking crisis and stuff like that, those all get tons of comments. So I'm just watching.
They get a lot more.
They get, well, the one video has like 160,000 views on it, and I'm like, and there's people, there's
What's
still...
What's the title of that show?
Mass Arrests. And it's a David Wilcock, basically a David Wilcock audio.
Yeah,
and,
he's wonderful.
And he's so wonderful. I mean, and Shrout, I think. But it's like, so what I'm noticing, and I'm not, there's nothing, David Wilcock does great work, by the way. So where I'm going with this.
One of my soul brothers.
And I've talked to him a couple times on email. He's really nice. And but what I want to share with you is that those things, and I'm glad that you guys people out there are paying attention and wanting to know the truth about things, and that's the point of the channel. But I want you to stop, and when you look at that, understand it's just, that's just what's happening, but the real truth is that you're empowered. So if you look at something and you look at it as a victim, and that people are doing things to you, that's not an empowered state. You want to step up, and that's not loving, that's not co-creation. If you step up and you say, listen, if I get into myself and I alchemize myself, I can create anything. that I want, as long as it's in flow and as long as it's within my divine plan. And a lot of times, things that are in your divine plan, it's still going to come. It's just not going to come when your ego wants it. So it just really think about that. I mean, and that's kind of what
That's a very, very good point, Jeremy. This point of victimhood. Yesterday on Facebook, I'm friends with Laura Eisenhower, and I'd love for you, Jeremy, to look up some of her work. She's unbelievable. She was, they wanted to take her to Mars as part of the dark plan and so on. She's the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, and I feel she's a real soul sister because she's talking about the divine feminine energy, conscious co-creation, and all the things that I'm really into and talking about myself. And she mentioned someone, I don't even know if I should mention the name of this very, very, very famous person who actually is going to be in our film, is very, very famous, particularly in America, as being 40 years in the business of, conscious co-creation and the consciousness movement. And she said that this lady, apparently, she's Googled it and whatnot, is against the Jewish thing and, saying, some stuff about, around killing Jews or something like that. I was just so shocked looking at this stuff. I was just like, oh my God, And Laura is apparently very shocked as well because she also had a great respect for this lady, who's considered one of the mothers of the New Age, etc. And then, we were discussing it on Facebook with hundreds of people commenting. And the whole thing was, we've got to stop this us-them mentality, and even the dark people, even our governments, whoever it is out there that we call evil, at the end of the day, we have to embrace these people and the beings and the governments into the light of us. We can't just condemn it as us and them anymore, because that still creates war, doesn't it?
It does, and actually, I'm glad you brought that subject up because I was just talking with one of my clients, and I'm talking in my book. I'm talking about paths. Each one of us has a path, and 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 I'm bringing up the subject about some paths, based on our creation, our consciousness, our conscious decisions, take us to a space where we're imprisoned, and some take us where there's tons of joy, and some takes us, in other directions. And in those based on our decisions, now whether that's from the ego or from whatever, it is not up to us to judge that path. And this particular friend of mine didn't appreciate that because she works with children that are victims and hurt and stuff, and I understand, and I have a tremendous amount of compassion from where she's coming from. And her point is that people that murder, that what they do is wrong. And I said, I've never said it wasn't. I'm saying that all of us are on a path. And when we get upset in judgment, I'm talking about judgment within the reactive judgment. And when we judge somebody, then that is a mirror back to us about what we don't want to look at in ourselves. And so in each one of us has a darkness within us that we want to love and we want to have compassion for. Now, the person that murders somebody, obviously they're going to go to prison. They're not going to be sitting out in society. But that's just because that's discernment, and that is a part of our culture. That is a part of what happens. There is an equal reaction to what they put out there. But what I was getting at from a soul perspective is that inside of our soul, we have done some heinous things. We've also done some very amazing things. So the person that said this, I don't know who it is. I would think that there's a side of their dark side that they haven't looked at, And so even though they're very evolved, and I know you and I are very evolved, there's things that we haven't looked at yet. And each day we grow and get stronger in that, and each day each one of us gets stronger in who we are. So instead of us judging and why don't we just send compassion to that person that they'll awaken in that area of their life, and send them love.
And that doesn't mean don't discern, as Jeremy has just said, because there's a big difference between judgment and discernment.
Yes.
That doesn't mean just be like a sweet little sheep for the slaughter.
Right.
It doesn't mean not saying no. It doesn't mean saying I'm not going to listen to my government. I'm going to get into, as Gandhiji did, peaceful, passive, disobedience,
Absolutely. Well,
or I'm going to revolt in a way that's not aggressive. We can still say no, and that make a stand without creating more violence. As Gandhiji is a great example, Martin Luther King is another example of people, around them. Yes, some unrest did take place, but India gained independence through peaceful ways overall, in general, through disobedience and so on. So this is going to be a big, big key to conscious co-creation and joy and heaven on earth. And these frequencies that we're riding now that are so there for us, if we just take one little step towards them or within ourselves, they're going to become very big. And, it continues to be a question like, right now I don't know what to do vis-a-vis this famous lady, I don't have to do anything, but, I'm realizing it's affecting this project of the film I'm in because it's another whole story. But it just helps me to see another facet of the question. And as Jeremy has just said, our souls have had many lifetimes, and so we've all also been the person who's committed the crimes as well in other lives, and sometimes in this life. So this embracement of the shadow is just so important, and it has to be embraced from within ourselves first. So to see within ourselves, another thing has come up that's dark. I won't judge it. I won't beat myself up, but I'll become aware of it. I'll shine some light on it. I'll embrace it into the light of me. And the next time it comes up, I'll choose from love.
Absolutely.
And I'll ask for forgiveness within myself and atonement in general.
Absolutely.
And yes, if you're a murderer, my father was killed by our servant in Bombay, and he did go to jail. But when I met him, I forgave him. That was God's grace to me, because all that poison I would have felt for 20 years since doesn't exist in me because I had the grace to forgive him. But that didn't mean that within relative reality he didn't go to jail. Of course, he had to go.
No, because that was the consequences for his actions, and that's different. That's in judgment. The word judgment actually means to discern, and so when they're discerning the facts is that he harmed another person. He took their life, and so. But then when I actually looked at, because I was judging, people that did genocide, many years ago. I was mad about the stuff that happened, and there's a movie about it. Is a gentleman that was in Africa, and I cannot remember, Hotel Rwanda, and I was thinking about that story, and it was getting me angry. And then I thought that man that ran that military was a sociopath. He had no remorse for what he did. And then I actually, not very long after that, went into a past life regression, regressed back to a life where I was very much a sociopath committing genocide. And so then I thought to myself, the reason why I'm judging that man is because I needed to forgive myself, my soul. From a soul perspective, I needed to forgive myself and let go of that karmic tie within me, and so I can be free and liberated. And that way, when I do that, those mirrors stop happening within the world. And the more and more we do that, the more and more deeper we get into that, and we love ourselves, and we change and we alchemize ourselves within us, murders and things like that will stop happening because those people will start to awaken. So how we change is we awaken ourselves.
And all of this requires for each of us to make time to be still, to be alone, to be quiet. None of that can happen through just constant busyness, constant worry about the mortgage, the taxes, and, that our government has done this, that, and the other. My mother's done this, that, and the other. We just have to make that time, just a little bit of time each day for self-awareness, for the inner work.
Absolutely. So we're getting into the last probably 5 to 6, 7 minutes here. What do you think we should talk about next? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I know Rashmi's books. You can get the Buddha Speaks and the Divine Mother Speaks on Amazon.com, and her website.
And Kindle.
And Kindle. And is it on Nook as well on Barnes & Noble?
Yeah, it's on BarnesandNoble.com, Waterstones.com, and internet sites in India, Australia. You can get it all over the world. And you can subscribe to me on Facebook, Rashmi Khilnani, and also author Rashmi Khilnani, and Twitter, author Rashmi Khilnani, And Jeremy's book is also on Amazon.com and Kindle.
It's on Kindle, it's on Barnes & Noble Nook, and one of these days it's actually going to be officially on Amazon.com. But it was uploaded, but it hasn't actually
So it's
yet.
on BarnesandNoble.com, and it's also available through you directly, isn't it, Jeremy?
JeremyMcDonald.net, or you can go on to Lulu.com, and it's being sold at several bookstores around the country, including the Edgar Cayce Institute, which I think is really cool. So.
Fabulous. And my next book, Shiva Speaks, Conversations with Mahavatar Babaji, who was the famous, he's the famous Christ yogi, the ascended master who's going to take us into the new cycle and be around till we've completed the cycle of heaven on earth, the fifth dimensional frequencies. And by the way, we don't just finish there, we continue the journey. And ultimately, the journey is beyond dimensions. And many, many discoveries are going to happen now. It's a 6th year this year. It's a year of love. It's a year of passion. It's, we've got the new moon in Capricorn on the 11th. So make your little lists and try and connect to your heart and then see what your passion is. And that's a great new moon to begin things. And choose just 3 major things that you want to shift and create this year. Because, if we do 50 things, then we all go crazy. Start with 3 major ones if, it's up to you. And, Jeremy and I are going to be here again. And meanwhile, if you need any private, sending of energy or healing, long-distance free healing, I'm happy to send you some within free will and the higher good, and you taking responsibility that in healing we don't fix you, and we don't, it's not like a tarot card reading or a fixing or it's sending energy, and then the highest good occurs.
Absolutely, and I'm there for you too. So I mean, there's plenty of options out there, guys. If you're going through this, there's plenty of
you're not alone.
People to help you. I mean, there's just lots of resources while you're going through this. The key thing is that as you're using these resources, as you're talking to people like Rashmi or myself, or you're reading books like we've put out, you have to practice, and then that's the key thing. And it really, that practice is an investment into yourself. So, take that time each day to invest some time into yourself. And as Rashmi said, it just takes a little bit of time. And you just connect, for 5-10 minutes, but you need to spend some time practicing each day. And so, with that being
get out there as much as you can into the elements,
Absolutely.
Nature, or at least the streets of London, wherever it is, you can get out. Don't be inside the 4 walls all the time.
Well, here's something cute. Sorry. I had to share with you something cute. I went for a walk with the dogs this morning, and then we were out in the elements and meditating and stuff. And they usually come in with me when I do a show, and they're literally, every time Rashmi is on the line with me, they pass out and they're sleeping. So they are literally, these 2 big, gigantic dogs are passed out.
I love doggies. I love doggies. Most of them love me. I've got a cute little dog in the little pub in the corner where I sit and have a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but tea or whatever, a soft drink. And she's called Pencil. She's 17 years old. Aww. She's the only one who doesn't come to me when I go, but otherwise I've got the squirrels jumping on me in meditation in Holland Park in the forest there. So it's really funny. And just one last thing I'd like to leave you guys with is, we're sending you a lot of love, light, and energy from London and Florida. We're all in this together. There's no higher or lower. And, as a human, I'm really working on embracing my humanity with my divinity. It's not an easy job sometimes. It takes balance. But none of us are perfect. And so don't be discouraged in any way, because we're on this incredible journey, and it's a never-ending journey. But we have this energy now to help us and to become who we wish to be. And it's a great time if we're just ready to be a bit courageous about it and connect and share with each other.
Absolutely. So, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll be recording another show in February, and so we hope this helps you, and enjoy.
Lots of love, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.